Hello, everyone. My name is Palm or Palmtacular. I'm sick right now and I'm sorry, so I sound not great, but I wanted to come on here and talk to you all about the recent executive order that was released by the president, talking about debanking and access to banking for politically unpopular people. The first thing I want to say though is what are executive orders? So, according to the United States Department of Justice, the official website, um, an executive order is an official document through which the President of the United States manages the operations of the federal government. They cite the president's authority under the Constitution and through sometimes specified statutes. They're published in the Federal Register and they might be revoked by the president. Um, they usually relate to administrative matters and internal operation of federal agencies, but sometimes they'll talk about policies and programs. Mm-hmm. Executive orders aren't really like lawmaking decisions, though. They don't really like make law. They just um yeah, they aren't legislation per se. They usually mostly just direct um the president's powers. That being said, um the current president of the United States, I don't really want to debate or talk about his policies all that much. All I'll say is trans rights are human rights and no one is illegal. Thank you. That being said, if you don't believe in that stuff, GTFO. Um, you don't have to listen to me. But, oh, that's gross. I'm sorry. But basically, the president, I've I've just decided that sometimes a broken clock can be right twice a day, right? And we've reached a broken clock time. So the president put out this executive order on today, August 7th, 2025. It's called the Guaranteeing Fair Banking for All Americans. And essentially, so the first sentence, other than by the authority vested in me as president and blah blah blah, is that financial institutions have engaged in unacceptable practices to restrict law abiding individuals and businesses access to financial services on the basis of political or religious or lawful business or religious beliefs or lawful business activities. The president cites specifically to um to the January 6th insurrection of 2021. Um Funny enough, calls it the events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6th, 2021, but how specific phrases and ideologies, political ideologies, were banned, and how that's basically not okay. So I want to talk about, kind of give a brief overview of how this act or executive order, sorry, it's not an act, it's not lawmaking. Essentially, the idea of this executive order um, is to prevent banking institutions from making decisions based on someone's imputed or actual, like, religious or political belief, right? So, like, it's the idea is to not block. I guess the idea that I'm guessing that he had in mind would be to not allow banks to continue and financial institutions, including peer-to-peer transactions like Venmo, to continue to block um, transactions. I think I'm losing steam, guys. I think this is important though, There's a lot of like specific language about people being able to um, get benefits through the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, but also through the um, the Small Business Administration and the Consumer Financial Protection Act. Um, but the reason I really want to talk about this for a second is that the focus of this executive order is to remove politicized or unlawful debanking. Um, and the definition given in this executive order is that an act by a bank, savings association, credit union, or other financial services provider to directly or indirectly adversely restrict access to or adversely modify the conditions of accounts, loans, or other banking products or financial services of any customer or potential customer on the basis of the customer's or potential customer's political or religious beliefs, or on the basis of the customer or potential customer's lawful business activities that the financial service provider disagrees with or disfavors for political reasons. Okay. Also, I think it's important that we look at the policy section really fast. It is the policy of the United States that no American should be denied access to financial services because of their constitutionality or constitutionally or statutorily protected beliefs, affiliations, or political views, and to ensure that politicized or unlawful debanking is not used as a tool to inhibit such beliefs, affiliations, or political views. Banking decisions must instead be made on the basis of individualized, objective, and risk-based analysis. Okay. So, what does this all mean? Well, this means this executive order kind of directs the Small Business Administration to start making considerations and try to reach out to consumers that were targeted by this kind of like political association. But you may be asking yourself, Pum, what does that mean for online adult entertainment? Well, I have a few hangups about how this could affect the online adult entertainment sphere. Um, it's been pretty well argued, not even well argued, but considerably argued by a lot of payment processors that the online adult entertainment sphere is a high risk industry. However, um, time and time again, we've seen that studies have actually shown that it's actually not as much high risk as people think. Um, in the paper that I'm currently writing, we see that a lot of the association with high risk comes down to the fact that a lot of these platforms are subscription based, and subscription based services tend to have higher chargebacks because people forget about their subscriptions. Or you can be like the average user of OnlyFans and be a married person, specifically a white cis hetero or bi slash pansexual married man, and you can only imagine the marital strife that you have from, purchasing an OnlyFans behind your partner's back. And so we see an increase in chargebacks in the industry, and we see a lot of issues with that could lend itself to a higher risk assessment. So I think this is a really good stepstone for people. I think this is a really good gateway for us. I say us as the royal us. I don't make adult content, but the royal us, that essentially it could be very helpful and help argue the fact that this kind of debanking doesn't really like just affect the online adult entertainment sphere. We could also extend it to the fact that the reason why a lot of recently a lot of platforms have lost adult entertainment and lost adult games and things like that is solely because of the fact that MasterCard and Visa said so. And because those payment processors were operating with with a non-profit behind them that was basically acting as a political agent, my words, okay, my opinion, acting as political agents, we could make an argument that there was a political belief motivating this kind of debanking that has negatively affected people. I really hope that makes sense. That being said, I do have my reservations about um, kind of either the agencies or the banks themselves fighting back and saying, no, we're making objective risk assessments. And see, that's where we're going to have to, as a group, come out with the arguments and say, no, I want to know exactly how your risk assessments are made. Because if we can see how your risk assessments are made, we can determine if they're actually based on, like, kind of an imputed, or I guess it believed, um, opinion of what the adult entertainment sphere is. I hope that makes sense. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that this might have the effect of forcing the payment processors to be more forthcoming and to be more open about how and why they're making their decisions. And it might be able to open some doors up for adult entertainers to contest these issues and contest having their bank accounts removed or losing all their money and suffering so much because of the banks arbitrarily deciding who gets to get money and who doesn't. At the end of the day, I don't agree with the ideologies of this administration at all. I don't. But I do think that this could be helpful. And unfortunate truth about the law is that sometimes we have to protect things that we don't agree with because we know how it can affect us if we allow it to go unchecked. Because it could have very well been that banks were also declining things like any kind of political speech in your transactions, or purchasing things from politically affiliated stores or queer owned stores or things like that. And they could say that it's a reputational risk. But what this executive order aims to do is remove reputational risk and politicization from banks. Instead, um, the banking regulators themselves, right? So the Small Business Administration and federal agencies um, have to, the ones that have the authority over the banks, the saving associations or credit unions, they have to remove that language about reputation risk and politicized or unlawful or politicized, or rather like debanking of lawful industries, if that makes sense. Um, but the idea is that we want to have reasonable and apolitical risk-based assessments for investments. So again, that doesn't mean that someone um, that only makes like $30,000 a year is going to be allowed to take $1 million loan. No. This means that if I want to go and purchase from a queer owned shop, that my bank is not allowed to say no to that purchase simply because they don't agree with queer things. I'm sorry, guys. I really am sick. I was in bed before this, and I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about this and try and um spread a little positivity. This is a glimmer of hope. I know everything's been so hard and so stressful, but I'm happy that we have at least this moment. A kind of shifting tides. Unfortunately, it has to come through this way, but it is a tide shift, and I'm happy. Um, I do hope that, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't see into the future, but I do hope it helps people, and I do hope that this is a step in the right direction to helping people. That being said, if you have any questions or you want me to go over this executive order when I'm not sick and tired, I definitely can. So just leave a comment down below. Okay, I'm going back to bed. Good night.